work for instead of against them. Now, it's not that our thoughts work against us because they're just very black and white, very linear, yet they run on old programming. So it's been my life's work and my joy to be able to show people the neuroscience behind why we do the things we do. It's not because we're lazy or uneducated, and then to give them the power to shift that in whatever direction they want. And I've recently partnered up with a platform called Heal Me and loving it there. And so my website is my name, ellgraniell.com. And because I'm old school, I like emails. And so if you wanted to just toss out a line, it's info at truespeak.us, like us, truespeak, all one word, .us. And of course, by my name, you can find me anywhere. My name's kind of unique. So I'm on YouTube and Instagram and, LinkedIn and all the regular social platforms. So thanks for asking.
It is a pleasure, and thank you for that warm introduction because I think it's very important to identify why we do the things that we do. So,
Hmm.
$1 million question or $1 billion question with inflation, of course, considering that. Why do we do the things that we do?
Yes, and it's so frustrating when we know it's not good for us and we do it anyway, or we do it repeatedly, or we step in it again. And it's because the neuroscience behind it is really basic. We're hardwired back to the caveman or lizard brain, or however people like to refer to it, for homeostasis. This means safety when things don't change. And so, even though it's not serving us anymore, because now, not caveman days, now things rapid fire change. By the time we get off this podcast, there'll be new AI stuff out there, right? So, we must be adaptable, but our brain won't even catch up for decades. It'll always be behind. And so, it runs off old, antiquated programming, like how modems used to make that horrible sound. I don't know if you remember when you would have to hook it. Yeah, okay. And so not everybody remembers that, but we run off those old squeaky, screechy sounds sometimes because nobody told us it can be different. And so the neuroscience behind it is we're just running old programs that at the time served us because we were emotionally immature to be able to handle the emotional responsibility that got thrown at us. So our brain says, don't do that anymore and you won't be hurt. But now it's decades later and we can handle those things. We can have discussions and all of that. So I guess to put a little bow on that is it's not your fault when we do things that we know aren't good for us. It's because our body's designed to do that. We have to take mental effort to shift and change that.
How would someone become self-aware to identify that they're doing this behavior, even
Mhm.
though in a lot of ways it's not their fault, but it's impacting themselves, it's impacting others, and if they're in a relationship, God, we know it's really going to impact their relationship and family. So how do they
Yeah.
identify it?
One of the best ways, in my opinion, is I think we can agree that we all have voices in our head. So start really sorting through those and listening to them. So when we have a limiting belief like, oh, you're such an idiot, or this always happens to you, or you're never going to find love, or whatever, call it out. So it was only here, but you can even out loud go, who said that? Take your power back, call it out. And a lot of times those voices then just go scattering, like when you turn the lights on and the bugs scatter, right? And so the first step is to be aware. These things are going on in my head. They're taking up real estate, they're not paying rent, and they're no longer invited to hang around. So you start calling them out. Who said that? Why would you say that? That's not my truth anymore. Those types of really powerful statements and questions.
There was someone that I wonder how I'm trying to remember. I'm getting old, Elle. I'm trying to remember how I used to know her. It was someone through social media,
Mhm.
and she shared a story with me that she always believed that she would end up married 2.5 kids, white picket fence, dog named Sparky. She wanted the American dream because she believed it. And when
Hmm.
we had the conversation, it realized that she was told that this is what she was going to get. And
Yeah.
because she was told it, she began to believe it. And because she began to believe it, she was pursuing it. I need to design my life around this
Hmm.
belief. The belief wasn't hers. When
Hmm.
she discovered that it wasn't hers, she was devastated. It was like she lost a piece of herself, even though she never had it. When it comes to the mind and the voices that speak to us, do some voices in our head speak to us louder than others? And if so, what kind of impact can they that have if it's a voice that is from our childhood instead of from our adulthood?
Hmm. So, one little tip that I can give everybody who's listening or watching is because this is what I help people do over time, and people can start doing this right now. Listen to the tone and the language of the voice. So, our childhood voices speak out of fear, doubt, worry, um, the need to be safe. They're trying to protect us. They're keeping us playing small so that we won't get noticed. Because if we won't get noticed, don't get noticed, we won't get in trouble. So, listen to the language of that voice. Whereas if it's your true source, your God light, the language, it's benevolent, loving, kind, supportive. That's those voices in your head that say, yay, you, or yay, me, right? Those are the ones that we say, thanks for that. I want to start being aware of more of those yay, me's. So it's the tone of the voice, the choice of the words that are coming through is where then you can, there's something called gentle parenting. And so, since those voices are childhood voices, gentle parent them. Don't call them an idiot because you wouldn't do that to a 4-year-old, right? You want to bring them into the future, say, oh, honey, I understand that must have been scary. And now it's, 2026 and I'm decades old and look how well I'm doing. So you bring them into the safety of the future because they're stuck back there. They got fragmented off from the truth and now they're getting the light shined on them. Some of them are so happy to be able to come into now. And some of them just want to stay stuck, right? So, with the power of your true source, you can release those and then replace those thoughts with, well, what do I want? Not what do I not want, right? So, if I say to somebody, what do you want? And they say, well, I don't want to be this heavy anymore. It's like, no, I asked you what you do want, not what you don't want. Yeah, I don't want to be heavy anymore. So sometimes it's a bit of a struggle. So ask yourself that question until you get the answer. What do I want? Why? Because if you can think it, you deserve it. So think deserving thoughts.
Is that hard for people to answer? What is it that you want instead of saying that this is what I don't want?
It's really hard. It's very hard for a lot of reasons. And so the awareness makes it easier, right? So I would say for more people than not, it's difficult. And because when we say what we don't want, then that allows us to stay in victimhood and blame. And as long as we're able to blame, we can't grow because we're not taking on any personal responsibility. Now, I've grown up with domestic violence, all the abuses, and all of that. So I know it's hard for some people to hear that, well, what was my role in it? Because we're not saying it's your fault just as much as we're not saying it's their fault. We're saying that it happened, and now we are able to recognize that that was on them. It was not us. We didn't bring it on. We just happened to be on the other side of where they were and or are in life. So we can empower ourselves to move on. We can forgive ourselves for staying too long or staying stuck, and we can forgive them for whatever however they've been hurt, however they were held back, however they were demeaned, and move on because they are not our responsibility. We are our healing is our responsibility. So that's why it's sometimes challenging to ask for what you want because we have trouble often believing we deserve it, but we do if we can think it.
I find some people struggle with that to your point. They're stuck in the victim mentality, which can serve you in the beginning because at least it makes you aware of what has happened. This
Mhm.
has happened to me, so it's fresh in my mind. The emotions are still warm in my chest. But then sometimes what happens is that some people will struggle with the journey of coming out of that. I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
Someone was struggling with something and they were grieving it because they were connected to this person that passed away and they felt that they weren't able to say the goodbye that they wanted. So they went to social media and they were getting a lot of attention and validation. And this young lady was not used to attention and validation in this regard, especially from men. So
Mhm.
because it was new to her, because it was foreign to her, because it became like a drug,
Mhm.
and she was so addicted to that attention, she started to create this identity on social media. And she started to live there. And as she started to live there, she started to connect with some of these men. And ultimately, she started to have sexual relations with some of these men.
Mhm.
Keep in mind, she's married and she has a family. The impact of this was devastating because after a while, after she saw the impact to her family, she felt used. And because she felt used,
Mhm.
that further complicated what she was going through because now, before all of this, she felt that she wasn't good enough. And finally, she was feeling good enough. After the whole situation, she went back to feeling, oh, I'm not good enough. But
Yeah.
now, I'm not good enough has impacted all these other people. So when you mention worth now and we talk about value, how much of an impact does someone's self-worth have on the decisions that they make and the things that they think about themselves?
Yeah, that's a big umbrella question. And I believe it starts with most of our decisions, and I'm speaking more so for women, it, um, because we're taught to play small, not to speak up, not to cause trouble. So our decisions won't represent our self-worth. They'll keep us playing small. So we're not doing what we know we're capable of, and we're watching the result of not doing what we know we were capable of. And that's really painful to know that we could be doing something that we're not, and then watching the negative, side of not. So there's action and then there's inaction, and we they both come with a choice. We can choose to do something. We can also choose not to do something. That's also an action. It's a choice, right? So in the case of this woman, Tareen, we all want to be seen, heard, appreciated, loved, occasionally put on the pedestal, right? We don't want to necessarily be there all the time, and although some may. And so she got that, and not only did she get that being seen and appreciated and valued, it came at a time when she was super low from having somebody pass, and she didn't have closure. So it was like she really needed that. So it was like a double dose of dopamine and all of that, right? And so then she kept riding that wave, but it wasn't authentic. It wasn't, these people didn't know her like her family, right? And her loved ones. And so she probably wasn't able to hear all the things they were saying. And then, so it was like a hamster wheel. She ended up back at the bottom again. But probably I would imagine even more devastating than before it all started. So how could she have broke that cycle? Would have been to have shared how she's feeling about all of this with other people. I'm guessing that, I mean, social media, everybody's got it, but behind the shades, to have told people how this is making me feel. Oh, this is exactly what I needed. I'm going to keep doing this, so that people who know her could hold her hand, could say, slow down a little bit, could say, these people don't know you. They can't give you what you're asking for. They're giving what you're presenting. Right. So, like when women leave the house, we tend to do our makeup, our hair, put on our matching clothes and jewelry. That's where we're presenting. And then when we get home, we prefer big t-shirts and slippers, right? So that's we're not being authentic, but we will be treated differently with the hair, makeup, and clothes versus the big t-shirt and slippers. So we're making decisions about how we present. And the more we can blend those two and find the Venn diagram, that the more balanced and serendipitous and serene and peaceful and joyful our life can be.
Do you think women get lost in the different identities that they present day to day in their life?
Yes, because when you're a mom, say, and you have kids, but you also have a career, you get a lot more accolades at work than you do at home, right? So the kids aren't going to say, "Thanks for making French toast, Mom. You're the best." They're just going to eat the French toast, right? But if you bring donuts into the office, people are going to go, "You're amazing." And she didn't even make the donuts. She just stopped off and, picked them up. So it is challenging, like this woman, to separate that what matters most is family and friends. They're the ones that are with you, they're in your heart, they're in your soul. Hopefully they are decent to people. If not, that's a whole different podcast. Whereas the people that you work with are social friends, right? They are part of what we need as humans, but what defines us is what we find at home.
I think that is very important. What defines us is at home.
Mhm.
Do we forget that sometimes?
I think we do because in some cases, what we are at home is easy. We're just being us, right? We don't have anything to prove necessarily. So, as humans, and again, this is neuroscience, when things come easy to us, we don't give ourselves credit. So, like, I, my singing is far from remarkable, and I'm an amazing writer. But it took me decades to say I'm an amazing writer, whereas I said I'm not that great of a singer right out of the gate. So writing comes naturally to me. So I don't put it as high on the, give it higher marks than somebody who can sing. Somebody who can sing, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And they're looking at me going, You've you've written 3 books. That's like mind blowing, right? So we're both on either side of the picket fence, going, "Wow, I wish I had what you had. You're so talented." No, I wish I had what you had. You're so talented. Instead of being grateful and aware, take a little stock once in a while, like how people will go through their pantry or their fridge and take a look at what we have and how much we have and how great it is. And we don't have to announce to the world, "Look at me, I'm the best writer ever." But we can know that when we're helping people soften the language of an email, or when we're helping our one of our kids write a haiku for school, that we're sharing our gift, and it's invaluable. And so if I can't sing, it doesn't mean I'm not valuable at all. It means that I have my value, they have their value. I'm a diamond, they're a ruby, right? I'm an emerald, they're a pearl. We're all valuable.
It's a shame that so many people focus on what they aren't instead of celebrating what they are. And to your point, writing comes natural to you, but maybe singing doesn't.
Mhm.
So you are a good writer. You don't necessarily have to acknowledge or mention that you're not a good singer, but if it comes up, well, I'm not a good singer. And there's
Mhm.
things that I'm not good at. And that's the work that I did for myself, where I started to celebrate for me
Yes.
what I'm good at. And I look at some women today, sometimes it seems, outside looking in, that the things that many women used to celebrate for themselves a generation or two ago
Mhm.
no longer are celebrated today. What are your thoughts?
Yes, some of those, so the fabric kind of got torn. Some of those things are just expected, like I said before, so you don't celebrate them. And some of them are shunned, like, oh, you still make your kids' lunches? You can buy a Lunchable, right? The consumerism has really torn a rift in how women, um, how they show up, right? Buy, have, more, prettier, prettier, shinier, shinier. And then it's hard to, at home, show the simple life, the make the cookies at home, all those types of things, as opposed to, yeah, faster and easier. Like, let's take the time, and then faster and easier when it's necessary, then that's a whole different thing. So that was a little bit of a complicated question about what women celebrate now. And I think what I'd like to share that came to my mind that's crucial is there's a small, because you brought up the word celebration, there's a small part of our brain called the habanula. And what it does is it gives us what we want. So this is different than the dopamine and all the other feel good chemicals. This works independently from all of those. And when we let me just use fast food for example. If you're eating fast food and you want to quit, but every time you run through these fast food joints and you're in the car going, you're telling the habanula, this is good, we like this is good. So then that part of your brain will keep reminding you that you want that, right? And even though you know it's not good for you, so you can celebrate. So if you don't drive through, then you do the little, look at me, I didn't drive through. I'm going home. There's snacks there. Now you're training the habanula to go, look at us. We make good decisions, and you start making better decisions. Does that make sense? So you can train it to give you what you don't want because in the moment, in the fleeting moment, you're feeding the celebration. Whereas if you can do bigger, longer, more often, more lasting celebrations, it'll start to give you more of that and push that other stuff away. So you could even say you did fast food and then you're in the car, but then later really lean into, oh, my upset stomach. Oh, shoot, this pimple. Like, really let it know, right? Because of that, this is what happened. Does that make sense?
I believe so because if I understand correctly, if you're going to be celebratory, stretch it out for longer periods of time so it lasts longer, it has a longer effect on you, so you don't focus on when you're not celebrating yourself. Would that be
Mhm.
accurate?
It would. And that makes me think of how people do that on social media all the time, right? Look at me, celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. And so then we watch and we go, oh, wow, their lives are so amazing. And it's simply because we could be that celebratory also, just not put it on social media, right? And get the same effect in our brain. In our brain, we could get the same effect. So don't do it by comparison, do it by example.
You're right, because we all seen that we all know someone or a group of people even that they post and they post and they post because when they post once, there's a rush. But then when it's about to fade, okay, let me post again, let me post again. It's
Mhm.
like they're just shot after shot after shot. I gotta maintain my high. I gotta maintain my drunkenness, right? Because in a sense, it is an addiction. And you made a fantastic example where if you weren't getting something before and you're getting it, you don't want it to go away because it feels so good. And the novelty of it is kind of sexy, right? It's like, oh my God, is this me? I'm getting all of this. I'm doing this, right? But we don't realize how temporarily it is.
Mhm.
When it comes to, I'm going to speak to the women now, identifying the steps required to take them out of limiting thoughts and into more positive thinking. In
Mhm.
general, what steps can you help them with to achieve that and why?
Yeah, I mean, once a woman does that, steps into her purpose in life, why am I here? And what does that look like, right? How can I get there? And then the third step, who can help me? So with with limiting beliefs, you want to make sure that you are, number one, being aware of them, if that makes sense. Well, I talked about that already. Okay, so as a woman, hear those voices and say, no more, not enough. So start claiming your ground, you know, your flag inside, and then listen to how you're speaking out loud, right? Because women are notorious for pity parties. They'll get in these little groups and everybody will talk about what's wrong and they'll support each other in what's wrong, right? Instead of getting together for a pride party. And I don't mean one of the seven sins pride. I'm talking about celebrating, right? Celebration. And then you can can journal these things. You can work with a therapist. You can work with me to help remove limiting beliefs. So that's the who can help you, right? So first, recognize that this is not you. This is not why you're here. And you know that because it just feels icky, feels incongruent. And then what's my plan of action for that and who can help me? And I, I know I'm going to make a few enemies here, but man, limit your social media interaction. You're
Amen, sister.
missing
Amen.
out. You're so missing out on life.
I was just talking about that today and actually probably all of this month, where these identities that people create on social media, I get it. It's sexy. It's appealing, right? You can go from a woman that's 5'3", maybe 200 pounds, to 5'6", double D's, a big butt, and 120 pounds. You can be whoever it is you want to be. For the men out there that have 5'5", you can be 6'3", 250, chiseled like a god. You can be Batman if you
Yeah.
really wanted to be. But the problem is that I think ever since 2020, when the globe was in lockdown because of a disease and keeping safe, people got so comfortable staying indoors. And then once they let their people go and we were free, some people decided to stay there because the person that they created from their computer was so much more interesting than the
Mm.
person in real life. How many of us can honestly say that I'm so great to so many people online?
Mm.
And when I go back to reality, I'm just a number amongst 8 billion. Who would honestly give up that? Right? And it goes back to the limiting beliefs and limiting thoughts. You need to think that you're great because you
Mhm.
created that person online. It didn't just come out of the air, right? There's something about you that
Right.
put it forward. Do you see people unable to appreciate the true power that they have inside themselves for what it's worth?
They do because it's once we start to shine, once we allow ourselves to say, look at me, I'm valuable, then here comes all the squishers. So the first thing that will happen is people will try to dim your light because they don't want to shine. And so you need to be able to recognize, and that could be family and it could be friends. And so recognize, well, why are they doing that, right? So if somebody ever says to you, you've changed, so you're really working on your shine, right? And somebody's like, man, you've changed. Say, look at them and say, thank you. I've really been working at it. Instead of saying, well, what do you mean? No, 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 no. You're going to say, thank you. I've really been working at it. And that's the thing. It's hard for us to shut. Okay, so here's the difference. There's confidence and there's conceit. Confidence is knowing your value. I know my value. You know your value. When we walk into a room, we know how the conversations are going to go. And if they're negative in this, then we're not staying, right? We know things about us. That's confidence. Conceit is walking in the room, making a big deal. Oh, the party can start. I'm here, like really begging for attention. And if you have to tell people how wealthy you are, how intelligent you are, how funny you are, you're very, very insecure. because you're afraid they won't notice unless you tell them. If you are funny, if you're wealthy, if you're highly educated, people are going to know that within half an hour of talking to you. You don't have to, you don't have to announce it and brag about it and bring it up over and over again.
How does someone walk that line between confidence and conceit?
It's total inner knowing. You know that you're bringing your best, right? So there's all those things that I know aren't in my wheelhouse, and I know that I don't bring those. And I know what I do bring, and I'm grateful for those people that do that. So I don't have to do my own taxes. So I don't have to drill my own cavities or whatever, right? So there's things that I do. So know, just internally know you're valuable. And it can be as simple as taking a few breaths and just telling yourself, I am valuable. Using those I am statements really powerfully. I am intelligent. I am beautiful. I am worthy. I am appreciated. I am loved. Until you really start to feel they are true for you, right? So if I say, I am 6 foot tall, I am 6 feet tall, I'm 6 feet tall, my brain's going to say, who are you talking about? You're 5'7" on a good hair day. So you can't lie to yourself, but you can take the baby steps, right? So I can say, I enjoy my height. It works really well for me. I am the perfect height for myself. So those I am statements sometimes need to be baby steps, um, because your brain will counteract them until it gets used to the new feeling of that truth for you. And then it's just who you are. You have nothing to prove anymore.
That journey of becoming who you are, the healthy version, the healed version.
Mhm.
I speak about how sometimes that journey can be lonely because maybe people who were there
Mhm.
before you made this journey, maybe they won't be there along for this journey. Do you see some people feeling a sense of guilt or shame when they're
Mhm.
making those changes because some people are starting to go against them and some people will fall off?
Mhm. And the guilt and the shame are the tethers that go with low self-worth and low self-esteem, right? Because you can't feel, no one can guilt you, no one can shame you when you know you're walking your path, when you know you're doing the right thing. Like for example, a long time ago, after 24 years of marriage, I went through the process of getting a divorce. I don't recommend divorce at all whatsoever. In hindsight, looking back, there are some things that I didn't know. I didn't have the tools, I didn't have the awareness that if I could go back in time, I would give those a try first, right? However, the marriage on the outside looked flawless. So people didn't understand, and I got a lot of flack about leaving. And I didn't want to tell all the people the backstage stuff. I didn't want to say, you have no idea what's going on. I didn't want to. So I walked that path alone, like how you said. However, when you're making the right choice and you know that you're in God's hands, so to speak, you have more power. When you're trying to do alone, just you and your ego, you're not going to survive. It's going to fall apart. You're going to end up back at square one or possibly even worse. So you've got to be able to know it's in alignment with why you're here and who you are. And it can be lonely, but it doesn't mean that you're alone, right? There's a big difference. There are always people, they're just not always right next to you or advising you, or you're not getting the divine downloads, but they are always there. So when you feel lonely or alone, ask yourself, is it because I've burned bridges maybe too quickly? Or is it because I've taken the high road and nobody wants to join me up here? That's not on me, that's on them.
Thank you for making that distinction because some people will feel the guilt. Oh, who am I to make these changes and leave behind these people. And to your point, sometimes we think that way because you don't think you're valuable enough to go get a new social circle, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's scary, Elle. That's so scary to be in that position.
It is. I mean, my heart goes out to people that make big changes, like leave their soul-sucking career, that pays well and has the medical. It always makes me laugh when people say it has great medical. Well, yeah, but you have all these diseases because your job is giving you ulcers. It's making your hair fall out. It's giving you insomnia, right? So you have coverage to cover the things that you wouldn't have if you weren't there. So leaving an abusive relationship, right? Leaving a soul-sucking job, sometimes letting family members go because we'll be guilted into their family. You have to accept them. These are big decisions, and we just need to find those couple of cornerstones, those people to hang on to and say, walk me through this, hold my hand, remind me I'm doing the right thing. And then I'm a big person of faith. Lean into faith, and everything gets easier. The light shines. It's a huge shift. It's a huge shift because you always have that. Always. With every breath, with every heartbeat, with every step. Whereas friends could come and go, family can come and go, but your faith is always with you when you choose to embrace it.
Elle, let me ask you one final question before I let you go, please, because you're just dropping a lot of wisdom right now.
Oh, thank you.
I want to give you three wishes. And these
Mm.
are three things that you can wish people knew would know about this question. So, what are three things you wish people knew about the importance of keeping healthy people around them and why?
The three things I wish is number one, because you're deserving. You are deserving. And the healthier people are around you, the healthier your vibration goes. It's think globally, act locally, right? So remember, you're valuable. The second thing is there is pain in growth. So when it hurts to leave these relationships that aren't working, pain is kind of inevitable. It's very rare that somebody has a life affirming change that didn't come with some pain. The flower has to break through the earth. There's just so many examples. The butterfly has to beat out of the cocoon. So remind yourself, this is good. It means I'm growing. So know you're valuable. Know that there is some discomfort and pain in the growth. And then the last thing, and I think the most important is